from the rented JVM building to the old East Templeton school. And this was really a turning point for the town. It allowed us to put the negative past behind us and start on a more positive road forward. It took a lot of people and a lot of work to get the building ready. The community and our employees, many of which were laid off at the time, really came together and got the job done. So thanks to everybody who worked on it. The opening of the new senior center, that's been a major milestone for the town. The senior center is a resource that the community has desperately needed for a long time. I've been working on that project for 10 years, but I'm not the only one. It took a lot of effort by a lot of people and a lot of time to get the doors open. The community is really utilizing the center, and it's quite rewarding to see it in operation now. So you can see we've made a lot of progress over the last 3 years. But as I said, there's still a lot of work to be done. I'm glad the voters gave me the opportunity to be part of the team that started us on the positive road. And I sincerely hope that I've lived up to the voters' expectations and that I'll get the opportunity to continue to work for you. If I'm reelected, just a few of the things that I want to look at is continuing to improve our use of technology. Technology is a great thing. It can help us reduce costs, it can make us more efficient, make us more professional. I want to apply my business experience, 37 years, in selecting the new full-time town administrator. A capital plan. I've worked now for about 5 years on the capital planning committee to develop a long-term capital plan. The plan is starting to come together. Funding is still an issue, but I want to continue to develop that plan so that we have a big picture of what it is we really need to invest in. I want to continue to advocate for the senior center to get it completely finished. And I'd like to continue to work with the boards to make more positive decisions and to continue the town's recovery. So I appreciate your vote on Monday, but whether you vote for me or not isn't the important thing. The important thing is that you get out, vote, and participate. Living in a small town such as Templeton is really a gift. And we all need to work together and keep it a community where we can all proudly say, I live in Templeton, Massachusetts. So thank you for your time tonight. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions if I can. Yes, sir.
What are your plans to bring business into Templeton to help with the tax situation?
We've started a economic development committee. We're looking at some different opportunities. The state has some grants to help with economic development. I'm not sure that we can, at this point in time, really offer tax incentives to bring business in. But we certainly, are willing to listen to and look at, ideas that anybody might have or that the committee comes up with. Yes, Will?
Yeah, my question is going to be the same for all of the candidates, by the way. So probably a little bit different because you're a sitting member of the select board. Since 2014, when we launched our town coordinator, we went to an interim coordinator, and then we went on to town administrator. We have had a town administrator during 15 and 16, and we've had money set aside for the budget to look for a full-time administrator. The town voted at that particular time to get a full-time administrator. This board has chosen to end up having him stay on for another year. Can you explain to us your position as to why you end up seeing him as for another 8 year as an interim when we really need to end up having a full-time manager in that position to take a look over the town and not somebody on an interim basis?
Okay. Yes, I definitely agree that we do need a full-time administrator, and that is one of our objectives for the next year. Because the town was in crisis when Mr. Markle came on board, just as we've been working through all the financial issues and getting our foundation rebuilt, we felt the continuity of having the same person in charge, basically, made a lot of sense. So that's why we weren't in a rush to replace him. Most town administrator contracts have a 6-month notice clause. So in order for us to have a town administrator, or a full-time administrator that is potentially already employed, we have to be able to extend that offer like 6 months ahead of time, 6 to 7 months ahead of time. So to get a new town administrator by the beginning of the next fiscal year isn't really possible at this time. So we chose to go ahead and ask Mr. Markle to stay for another year and have him help us pick a good candidate. And then it's our hope or desire or intention to be able to extend an offer to a good candidate in the early winter, November timeframe, November, December timeframe, something like that. But again, it'll be an effort that the board will have to work together, and having Mr. Markle's expertise and guidance in making that decision, I think in the long run will be a very positive thing for the town. Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. First one is it true that Templeton's fiscal year 2013, 14, and 15 have not been audited at this time?
They've not been audited yet. The audit process for 13 is currently in the works. The records and the books are still being reconstructed for 14 and 15.
So my second question was, I believe that the budget for FY15 included more than $50,000 to conduct those audits. And it sounds from your answer to the first question that you would be in support of auditing those 3 years, correct?
Absolutely. All 3 years need to be audited. However, the records need to be reconstructed properly before we spend the money to audit them.
Thank you.
Yes, Greg?
Go ahead.
What are your thoughts on rewriting or restructuring the town charter to a point where we would have a full-time town manager versus administrator position? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry that I can't really give you a solid answer on that. I mean, Templeton's a small town, and, I really have to weigh and learn more about what are we going to give up by having a town manager versus a select board and a town administrator. So, it's certainly an idea that I would consider and want to do some research on, but I wouldn't be willing to just jump on that wagon, right out of the gate.
Yeah, thanks. And I just asked that question because even all the complexities that it takes to run a bigger community and bigger city, those are still mandated to even the smaller communities now. So the complexity of running a day-to-day operation, even in a town this size, becomes more difficult for a board of selectmen.
Yeah, I would not disagree with that at all. Yes, sir.
Now that the school's been cited, are you willing and able to try to unite the town with the school and back the location?
I'm very excited that the new school is coming. It's going to be a big boost for the community. It'll give us, a more attraction for bringing in, more residents. Being in the center of town, it's going to be a new building. That part of it doesn't really worry me too much. I think the architects have done a pretty good job of how the building is going to be laid out on that property, and it's not really right on the corner. So I think the aesthetics of the building is going to be fine. I do worry a little bit about the traffic. But yes, I mean, I'm happy the school's coming and I'm all for it, and I will do whatever I can to try and unite the community behind it, yes.
When Mr. Markle came to see us at the advisory board, he was talking about 17. The majority of the money that the town has, I was trying to find it, but I can't. After Narragansett, Templeton Center School, Monty Tech, the pensions, there's almost nothing to run the rest of the town with. What are we going to do? What do you think we should do?
Well, at this point, we do have a balanced budget, so the town will be able to operate in the next fiscal year. As the financial crisis continues to get resolved, I don't want to call it a crisis anymore, but as we continue the recovery from the financial crisis, free cash should become available, which when that occurs, we'll be able to build some stabilization or perhaps make some investment in things that we need to be invested in that have been ignored for way too long. And as far as an operating budget, unless some of the state mandates change or the way the schools are funded or something, it's going to be difficult. I'm not in huge favor of running out and asking for an override. Perhaps if we had a real cohesive plan as to how an override would be applied to the operating budget, that might be a different story. But at this point in time, I don't really think that's an option. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you again for your time.
Board of Selectmen 3-year term candidate Jeffrey P. Bennett.
First of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you to John and Lynn for having us. I previously served a 3-year term on the Board of Selectmen. I currently serve on the advisory board. I've been on that since August of 2015. I have a pretty good working knowledge of the 17 budget coming up, and I heard a couple of the questions. A couple of things that I did when I was on the Board of Selectmen. I served as chairman for 1 year. I put together and brought before the board a written policies and procedures for the Board of Selectmen, sort of a guide for them to go by. They've never had anything like that before. And as chairman, and all I did was one thing simple, but I think it's the best thing that I did serving on the board. And that's the time that I put John Kamaloht on the agenda to talk about the veterans agent and the veterans regionalization situation that we had. I'm a veteran. There's a couple of veterans here that I know of. And we were in the situation, the regional thing that we were in was not serving Templeton veterans really well. And like I said, all I did as chairman was put him on the agenda. He has done the rest, and it's worked out very well for Templeton. And I thank him for that. I'll deal with one thing right now because I know somebody's asked me about it. I was elected to the board in 2011. I was a member of the Massachusetts National Guard since 2007. 2012, July, August, somewhere around there, I was told we were going to Afghanistan. I left the last weekend of August 2012. I came back July 17th, I think I got into town. And when you go places like that, and you're coming back, and you live in these little compounds. It's almost like being in prison because you really can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. Everybody makes plans, talks about, I get back, I'm going to do this, we're going here. Some people are going to Puerto Rico. I had plans to go, if I may have this minute.
Absolutely.
So I had plans to go someplace, and one of the guys asked me when we got back to Texas, so Ben, where are you going? I said, I'm going to eat some good food, drink liquor, and chase girls, for a couple of weeks. Well, being on the select board, and that was the year that we had the school vote, and this and that was up. I said, well, I'm a selectman, we gotta do this, we gotta deal with this, and I never took that trip. My advice to anybody, if you're ever in that situation, take that trip you plan. I always enjoyed being a selectman, and I always disagree when people say, public service, whatever board you're on, it's a thankless job, because it's not. I don't think so. And when I came back, there were signs and stuff, and people welcomed me back. It was very gracious of them. I'm very appreciative of it. I always enjoyed going to selectmen's meetings, but it started going downhill. I didn't want to go, didn't look forward to them. I know myself pretty well. It got closer and closer to the end of the term, and I just kept thinking, something's going to happen, something's going to do something. Long story short, I was afraid I was going to be another one of those selectmen who had looked at somebody and swore at them, yelled at them, cussed them out, whatever, and I wasn't going to do that. So one night I just made the decision. I had about 6 weeks left. It was I'm done. I'm not going to stick it out because I was afraid I was going to do something I didn't want to do. I went down at night, one line, I resigned my position, I turned my key in, I went at night so I didn't have to answer any questions, nobody could talk me out of it, and that's what I did, and that was the reason why, and to quote Forrest Gump, that's about all I got to say about that, and it'll be the last time you ever hear me talk about that.
Good job, Jeff.
As I said, I serve on the advisory board right now, and we've been working on the budget. Last night we stayed pretty late to get through checking the entire budget out. It was just finalized. I think on the 20th is when the warrant closed, and that's part of the warrant, and we were told by the town administrator that was the final version. The selectmen, they were not going to make any more changes, adjustments, or anything, and so we were going through that, trying to get it done so we can have a pre-town meeting, and you all get to look at it as early as possible before the town meeting. I mean, you're voting, $13 million or a little more. You deserve to have a chance to look at it before you walk in the door at town meeting. And that's one of the things that I'd like to work on. The DOR has a municipal calendar, and it suggests, they can't make you do it, but it has a process in there and the time schedule of the months and the times when, including taxpayers, when you should pay your tax bill, when the accountant should do this. The Schedule A should be done, by October 31st. The treasurer does this. The Board of Selectmen should start thinking about the budget and looking at the department requests in October. In November, they start finalizing things. And by December 31st, the selectmen should be putting together the budget, finalized, to give it to the advisory board, which in some communities is called the finance committee. And it would allow us to start doing our part, which is to go over it and look at it and check it and see if we can really afford to do this, or if we should spend this much money on that. We look back at past budgets. We try to talk to department heads and see what they want, what is their budget, and what do they want, and we try to decide if we can afford it or not. And the best way to do that is to look at the three sources of income that the town has, and that is local receipts from like motor vehicle excise taxes, dog licenses, permit fees, all of that stuff. Then you have government aid, what the state, is your little pittance, whatever they give you, that's state aid, and then it's taxation. And that's where the assessors come in. They look at, and through estimates, and past history of documents and stuff. They basically tell you how much money you got to spend. And then they look at the budget that you all pass in May, and they kind of come up with a figure, but they have to send it to the DOR. So what does the tax rate have to be to raise the amount of money to pay the expenses that you all voted in May? And it's a limited amount, so you can always, cut expenses. Revenue is hard to make up and hard to get. I've heard, being at a selectmen's meeting, attending them, I started attending them regularly again a year or so back. I heard the subject of pay for elected officials come up again. We used to pay elected officials. Last time we did it was a little over $60,000. I'm not in favor of that. I would not vote for it. I would not support it. If elected officials, just so you know, if elected officials make over $5,000, they are eligible a year, they are eligible to participate in the retirement system. And that just adds a burden onto the taxpayers, because 4 things that went up this year is that retirement went up, health insurance went up $78,000, Montechusett Regional Tech, their assessment went up $97,000. We had $509,780 of new revenue. $445,000 was eaten up by 4 things: health insurance, retirement, Monty check, and an Narragansett school assessment. Education takes out the biggest chunk out of the budget. It's like half. You've got a pizza with 8 slices, 4 of them goes to education. There ain't much you can do about it. The rules, the laws are written to favor that for a reason, and maybe when they're written, like a lot of things like Prop 2.5, it was aimed at fixing something and doing something, but they didn't think it through all the way, and try to get them to adjust it and fix it is kind of hard. It's just something we have to deal with. So on the other half, town employees, equipment, all these other things, you got to work very hard. Sometimes you have to be a bad guy. You can't be nice. You got to keep the ship afloat, and you can't give more over here to here. It's a balancing act. I've really seen that being on the advisory board, which I think gives me a leg up on the other candidates. I've seen it from both sides of the fence. I've served as a selectman. I've been on the advisory board. And with any luck, maybe I'll be on one or the other, whatever happens Monday. And again, as Doug said, just please, 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 go out and vote and go to the town meeting. It's the time you have to say about your government. The thing about the health insurance, the town administrator told the advisory board that's one of those things. It's unsustainable. It's just, if it keeps going up, we have to do something to it. Town employees may have to give a little bit, the town may have to give a little bit, but it's just one of those things. It's not going to go down. And again, Board of Selectmen, I believe we have to work with the advisory board and work more in common. I've talked with some selectmen, and it's almost amazing that we don't know all what they're doing, and they don't know all what we're doing, and we're supposed to be working on the same thing. I don't know if that's systemic or what that is. Individual thing, I don't know. All I know is the way it's designed, it's the way it's laid out. It's a government by committee. So we should start meeting and start talking. Because in about 4 years, stuff is going to hit the fan. The police station thing is going to come on, the tax rate. That's going to start like in the middle of 18, we were told. The school's coming on in 19. Revaluation again is coming. Some things coming down the pike, and all these other costs are going to keep going up. So we better start doing something, and we start talking. And the committees that work on the budget and stuff have to work together. Now, this is Tommy's house, and he puts down the rules. And I may be exiting stage left, I don't know. I just want to point out some things that I've seen, and not everybody's a nutcase junkie that gets up at 3 in the morning and likes to read rules and Massachusetts general laws and then look at all this stuff. Just going to the selectmen's meetings, I've noticed and seen some things about the board having a meeting and they have a conflict of interest because people they're talking about the budget and members have family members. So two people walk away from the table. The law says an open public meeting, you have to have a quorum. It's a 5-member board, you have to have 3 people sitting at the table. Well, they gave a reason and they gave a rule of necessity. But if you go back and if you go and look at it and read it, which that's the first thing I did, you can't do it, it's improper. And multiple procedural things and some things that were done wrong that I think, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, it's kind of like my hobby, I like to do that. And I think I've demonstrated in the past that I can bring forth the time, put in the time to do the job. Which is another thing the board discussed, changing their meeting days because apparently they have trouble getting people in to sign. The selectmen have some duties, legal duties, that they have to sign and warrant is your weekly town bills, and the treasurer cannot pay your bills until a majority of the selectmen sign the warrant. Legally, she cannot pay your bills, and you don't pay your bills, particularly salaries, you get in trouble. And you're trying to get a bond rating back and trying to do all this, and you volunteer for this job. Nobody came to Jeff Bennett and said, you know, if you don't go take out papers, I'm going to break your legs. No, you volunteered. There's additional duties that come with this, and I have served on the Board of Selectmen before. I served with Doug, I served with Julie, and I served with Diane Brooks. And so, you know, we all know now. You might not know going in, but we all know now what you have to do. You have to do the duty, you have to be willing to do it, or you have to walk away, because it's a serious responsibility. Lastly, one thing I saw in the 2015 annual town report, and it's on the town's website right now. And one thing bothers me, and by law, the selectmen are charged with creating a report of the town's business, charged to the town, meaning the town pays for it, and it's supposed to be done 90 days at the end of the calendar year. And some of the things that are supposed to be in there is a report of the town treasurer and a report of the town accountant. And they're not in there. I don't know why. They're not in the annual town report of 2015. And the Mass General Law says they're supposed to be in there. I don't know if it's an oversight. I don't know if there's a reason for it. I don't know. I haven't asked. I was just reading it today, and I'm looking at it. And then I went and started looking, and then I looked up the law to see if it's required, and it is. So, and another thing that kind of bothers me is we have a new administrator, we have new selectmen, we have a new accountant, a new treasurer. Lou Ann's been working in the assessor's office for a while as an assistant and a deputy assessor now. But relatively speaking, we have a new assessor. We're still doing transfers and transfers and transfers and transfers. I take from that either we don't have enough money to run this town or we're not applying it correctly, or both. So again, running for selectman, I've served on the board before, I know what it takes. I've demonstrated, I think, that I will take the time to do it. I'm no longer in the military. The farthest I go, I think, out of state is to Rings, New Hampshire. I have no plans to go anywhere, to leave leave the US ever again. I've served on the advisory board, so I think I have a working knowledge of the budget and things like that. And I'm fiscally conservative, and I think that's a good thing. As far as business coming into town, that's going to be a work in progress. And one of the things I would like to do is follow the municipal calendar and get a full-time administrator. The townspeople voted back in 2013 to change to administrator. And an interim is just that, it's an interim. It's supposed to be between the coordinator who left and finding one. And I don't believe 2 or 3 years as an interim is the way to go. I will be here. I'll be here till Tommy and Luann tell me I have to leave at the coffee pot. If you want to talk to me about anything, I'm just barely talking right now. I'll answer any questions talking about anything, and if you want to look at any of these, probably don't, but if you want to look at any of these rules or laws, I'll be happy to show you and talk about anything, all right? Thank you very much.
I have a question. You mentioned the continuing the town meeting without the quorum. If you were on the board, what would you have suggested or recommended to get the town business done?
That's all right. It was not a town meeting, it was a meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. If they tried to have a meeting with just 2 people and I was one of those 2, I would say, no, you can't have a meeting, stop it.
But we have conflict. We have, the people have to leave. That's not going to happen, that's not going to change tomorrow, next week.
Okay, real quick. What the board did was they were talking about the budget. It's a 5-member board, 4 members are present. 1 member has been missing. I don't know the reason why, I never asked them. So there's 4 members. They started talking about the budget. 2 members of the board have a conflict of interest because they have family members who work for the town. Salaries are part of the budget. 1 selectman got up and left. And this is on the DVD, by the way. 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 43 seconds in on the April 11th meeting. So they kept talking with 3, and then another selectman got up, and there's 2 sitting at the table. And all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, how can we do this? And the town administrator said it's the rule of necessity. There is a rule of necessity. And they said, what he said was, and this is my problem with it, the rule of necessity allows us, if members have a conflict, that, thank you very much.
We expect that all the time.
I'm hogging the microphone.
It's all right, you know where it goes.
And it was explained that the rule of necessity allows the government, allows the business, allows the meeting to continue if you have members that have a conflict. Wrong answer, Cupcake. The rule of necessity specifically says, first of all, the member who has the conflict is the one who is supposed to invoke the rule of necessity in order for us to have a quorum, to continue having a discussion, because the open meeting law says you can't have an open public meeting without a quorum. 2 out of 5 is not a quorum. The meeting's over. You can't sit there and discuss things, never mind vote on anything. Secondly, it says because 1 member of a 5-member board is absent, you can't invoke the rule of necessity, because even though that person isn't there, you still have 3 members who could, if you had to vote, or could talk about the budget with those other 2 people gone. It's an error. It's, like I said, I'm a nutcase. I go read Mass General laws over and over and over again. I looked that stuff up. It came up once when I was on the Board of Selectmen. That's back when there was a salary my first year. And we're signing the warrant that benefits us financially. I said, there's got to be something here. I ain't getting my butt in the sling. So I called the ethics, and that's when I found out about that. So there's 2 issues there. Open meeting law, you weren't following it, and the rule of necessity. And it's just, there's so many laws out there that keep changing stuff. You got to be a nutcase like me. Well, you have to have somebody that's all they'll do.
Yeah, but my question is, how would the budget ever be discussed? Because that situation
The
is never
person,
going away.
one of those people, first of all, you have the fifth member that's absent, you got to bring him in. Or the person with the conflict can state, this is my conflict of interest, and you can file this in writing with the Ethics Commission. But that's the rule of necessity. For us to do our business, we need a quorum. I have to sit at the table. This is my conflict, and I'm sitting up here using the rule of necessity so we can conduct our business. That's the way that rule is written. And my only part in that would be, I'm probably gonna let off the top of my head. I've been up here way too long. There's other people. Like I said, if you want to talk to me, ask me anything, I'll be right back there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Board of Selectmen, 3-year term candidate John C. Kaplis.
My dog is at home, resting comfortably. He was busy today. Thanks for having me tonight. Tom Luann, thank you. This is a great facility. Good evening, distinguished guests, other elected officials, other candidates. I'd like to thank you, Officer Leroy family, for being here today. Thanks for having me. My name is John Kaplis. I live at 7 South Main Street, right around the corner. You can actually see my house, digging up my backyard. I am running for selectman for this great town of Templeton to represent the people of Templeton, also Baldwin, Otter River, and East Templeton. I moved here in 2005. Also, I'm new, so bear with me for a little bit. So people that don't know me, I give you a little explanation of who I am. I moved here in 2005, so I'm not originally from here. I'm originally from Charlestown, Massachusetts. I'm a townie by trade, so I played hockey. I didn't rob banks, so that was a good thing. So I moved here in 2005 with my family, my wife Christine, and at that time I had 2 boys. Jeffrey was 3 and Connor was 7 months old. My wife and I did an extensive search to find the house we have here in Templeton today. My wife and I went on the internet. We did a really pretty decent search. We looked at homes all around the area, Hubbardston, everywhere, Phillipston, to find the house behind me. To include all demographics and, believe it or not, the school system. In fact, we bought mainly because of my wife and the new school that was being built. That's why we bought the house in 2005. I bought my house in 2005 because there was a new elementary school being built here. Yep, I sure did. You got me. 11 years later, here we are, but with another Templeton resident. We have another boy, Keegan, who's 3. He's 3 years old. I perform many functions in this town. Obviously, I work as the Director of Veteran Services here in town, which is a great part-time job for me. I love it. Thanks to Jeff and the Board of Selectmen for having me. I'm also the Assistant Cub Master for Back 27. I'm also Assistant Scout Master for Troop 27 Boy Scouts. Both my older boys, Jeffrey and Connor, are both in Boy Scouts. Jeffrey's not far from being an Eagle Scout. Both Jeffrey and Connor are both in the Narragansett school system, in the middle school, and Keegan is in the Phillipston pre-K program. I am a life member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart Association, the National Infantry Association, the 182nd Infantry Association, an honorary member of the Order of St. Maurice, and I'm also a Master Mason 3rd degree. I've been asked by many town folks, why I'm running. Well, that's a great question, but before I get there, let me talk a little bit about myself for 2 seconds. After 24 years of service to this great nation in the United States Army, reaching the rank of Sergeant First Class and managing soldiers in combat and in garrison here in the States, making life and death decisions, making decisions on financial issues in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and being responsible for millions of dollars worth of pieces of equipment, and not to mention all the people. Being awarded a Purple Heart, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, 11 Army Accommodation Medals, 10 Army Achievement Medals, which are just a few of my many accomplishments. I've also have to say I've been an international representative to represent the United States Army in many third world countries such as Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, working with the Army and the Ministry of Health at a governmental level, working on changing not only relationships on how they do business, but also working with other countries. I also worked with other countries as well, such as England, Germany, and Scotland, and their medical establishments over the years as well, in my 24 years of service in the Army. I've been assigned to many levels, company level all the way to the brigade level. My leadership ability and my decision-making